Hello, and welcome to Bodied, a Cloud9 Fancast, Hotel Edition. So, I am busy with some stuff for work, and is also busy, so I did want to record something for the week. I actually forgot to upload the last episode last week because I was busy getting ready for this trip and stuff, but so, anyway, it doesn't matter. So, I have stuff to talk about, so let's get right into it. First off, with other esports, we have Rainbow Six actually ramping up and actually playing pretty well. They had a pretty poor first start against, I believe it was Space Station Gaming, but they ramped up. They went 5-5, so they drew against Evil Geniuses and Noble, which are two top Rainbow Six teams. So that's really good. That's really, I think, the results that I would like to see personally. The team is still kind of figuring stuff out, maybe, trying to get back in the groove, and going toe-to-toe with two top high-level teams and not losing and able to take them to a full series is actually really good. So that's really great results. They also participated in the ESL Paris qualifiers. They beat On-Site Gaming, but they fell 1-2 to Mouse. But so far, good signs for the Rainbow Six team, and hopefully they can qualify. Also, hopefully they can continue to get better. I think that they definitely deserve a spot at tournaments and to continue to improve. So they're definitely showing it. But for people that aren't showing it, CSGO is still struggling. They brought in Styko, who was previously on Mouse Esports, and they brought him in to be the fifth for the ESL Cologne tournament. And sadly, but I guess expectedly, the team didn't really have good results. They beat Ninjas in Pajamas 16, I think it's 16-2, maybe? But then again, so did everybody. So it's not really the best results. Then they lost pretty hard to Astralis. They were looking like they could maybe beat them in the first map, but then in the second map they just got stomped. And then they played Navi, again, lost. And, it's just not good. It's just hasn't been good for CSGO lately. I think Skadoodle may have to finally step down. He's not been having good performances. He hasn't been doing the performances that we need him to do consistently. Sometimes, occasionally, he will step up and play to the potential that he has, but other times he'll just fall to the wayside and be more of a detriment than a help. So Skadoodle may have to step down, but even then, C9 still needs to figure out what direction they want to go in. Do they want to do structured? Do they want to do more of a loose, free-form kind of style? They need to decide now and start making decisions. Because if they're going to continue to have Skadoodle, if they're going to continue to struggle, if they're going to continue to juggle players and try to figure out, we don't have a fifth, what are we going to do? You're going to still just be a mediocre team. They need to fix things, and they need to do things now. So they got to get on it. They got to cut the cord. They got to get players. Otherwise, this is just going to continue to happen, and they're going to continue to look foolish. And this also hurts them in the long run when you think about, what happens when Valens leaves as a coach, or what happens when Automatic are one of our few, performing players. What happens when he just gets fed up with losing and leaves? Then what? You're going to probably continue to be mediocre because no one wants to play for you. Unless you have big bags of cash, and I'll talk about that at the end of the episode, but they need to figure out something. Otherwise, they're going to continue to just kind of suck. So, ball's in their court. They can get a fifth. They can figure out if they're going to keep Ska. I think Ska should just retire, and they should find another opper. Make good decisions quickly and really start building up synergy around more consistent, fresher players. So, only time can tell, but lately I have not been confident. I'm sad to say. But moving on to Overwatch, the British Hurricanes took on Young and Beautiful for their first match of EU Season 2 contenders. For those that don't know, British Hurricanes is sort of the Tier 2 Overwatch team for London Spitfire, which is basically Cloud9's Overwatch. British Hurricanes won the Season 1 Contenders Championship in a pretty exciting series. So I was really interested to see how they would perform, especially with this new roster. Craggy stepped to reserves, and then they put in Mikey A, who was previously on Cloud9 EU Contenders, as well as, I think it's Nesh. Nesh is a Widow player, so when they need a more, sniper role, they can now have that, which I think seemingly how the meta has been shifting towards snipers are becoming more prevalent. Sadly, they lost 1-3. They looked good on Lijiang Tower, but then they kind of struggled. I think, they looked good as a team. There was definite teamwork, but there was definitely a lacking of explosiveness that Craggy really brought to the table. And without that explosiveness, I think you're going to really struggle sometimes in fights when you need just a big punch to win. And if you're kind of struggling, that's not the best. So hopefully the team can turn around. I have high hopes. The British Hurricanes have been one of the better C9 teams lately. They won Season 1 Contenders. They looked pretty unstoppable. I think the coaching staff has a really good idea of how to adapt with the meta, and if they're underperforming, see, okay, here's where we went wrong, here's how we fix it, and they do a really good job. So I have high hopes. I'm not going to get down to British Hurricanes too much. New roster, new meta, new season. Mistakes happen. You can make mistakes early as long as you can close out strong. But a team that I'm not so confident in is London Spitfire. A lot of unconfidence today, sadly. But London's going to be playing in the Season 1 playoffs next week against the LA Gladiators. And London has not had a win over the LA Gladiators yet. And that's worrying. The Spitfire have a tremendous wealth of individual talent. I think everyone on the Spitfire, at least now, considering they had to cull half the roster, as well as have to do coaching shenanigans. So it's been a revolving door, kind of. But I think everyone that's on the Spitfire, at least currently, is potentially top 3 in their respective role. Maybe not Nuss, but I think Nuss is not as a leader. I think Nuss is fine. Jester's great. Jester's a fantastic Winston. Fury is one of the best. Fury got picked for the South Korea World Cup team. That's a pretty good indication of his skill if he got picked. Bedosian's incredible Zenyatta. He is able to be really offensive as well as be very supportive. Birdering, a streaky player, but has some of the best mechanics I've seen in Prophet. Is, I think, the stable rock that you need to play around. All the people on the Spitfire are good, but the issue is they can't play as a team cohesively and consistently. They'll look good on some maps, but then just completely drop the ball. I'm not sure if it's indecision within the comms. I'm not sure if it's just getting tilted because Birdering's not hitting the shots that he wants or doing the plays that he wants. They really like to play dive, even though dive has somewhat been phased out. You can still play it, but it's not as prevalent or as strong as before. But they're still trying to really execute Genji Tracer full-on dive. They're struggling with ult management. They're struggling with character swaps. They're struggling with all the team cohesion stuff that you kind of need for Overwatch. And that's not a good sign. And I'm not sure if they can win. They've had a few weeks to practice. And I think if maybe they really buckled down and if they're just all right, we're going to go nonstop balls to the wall practice, I think they can maybe improve and beat the Gladiators because they've come close a couple times. But I don't know. I'm not so sure, especially since there was a thing of a couple of players taking a vacation in upstate California, I think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a vacation, but, personally, I was just a little hey, you guys haven't been having great results for the past 2 stages. I'm not sure if taking a vacation now is the best idea. Playoffs is coming up. Maybe buckle down on that instead of going on a wilderness retreat. I don't know. Maybe that's good for team building. I don't know. It's considering how the most recent results have been, I would have gone against vacation personally. But we'll have to see next week. I hope they win. I don't want to see the London Spitfire lose. I'm kind of expecting it, though, considering how LA Gladiators just seems to be a more cohesive unit. I think they might lose. I want them to win. And I hope that through the weeks of practice, they have improved immensely and solved at least one or two problems. But moving on to League of Legends, the Academy team continues to be sort of the bright spot for Cloud9 League of Legends. They shot for 3 for 3, which is great. Each time they use the gold funnel strategy with Sneaky playing Kale once and Kaisa twice. I think all 3 games Blabber played Nunu, which actually worked pretty well considering Blabber was having to split duties of supporting Sneaky as well as telling him where to go. So he was having to sort of play the jungler and the support at the same time. But it worked out well for the most part. At first they looked really uncomfortable. They were really trying to... They couldn't really do some stuff in their first match when Sneaky was playing Kale. Shiro really stepped up, though. He had a couple of really hero performances that week in their first 2 games. On Riven and Fiora, he definitely stepped up to allow the team to come back or to make it so the enemy didn't get too much of an advantage over them. So he's making potential stock for himself in the LCS much greater. With every time he's just playing really well in the Academy, and he's been doing that a lot lately. And so is Blabber. I think Cloud9 may be going in this direction of, okay, Shiro seems to be more consistent with the team. Shiro seems to be able to understand maybe a little bit more how to play around a team in the later stages of the game. Blabber is looking really good. Maybe this is the new direction for C9 of just a very young top and jungle with experienced players in the bottom side of the map to ensure that the top side of the map can get proper support, sort of like what they did in spring, but perhaps with a jungler that maybe better understands how to play mid and late game stuff. I'm sorry, Sven, but you have not been giving us those results. But yeah, I'm hoping that Sneaky actually comes back. Moving on to LCS, they're just throwing. It's honestly heartbreaking. Not even Jensen and Smoothie, people that fans have been clamoring for the past 2 weeks, not even them can stop the throws, and it's honestly kind of upsetting. Draft has been bad. It's been really head scratching. Game against TSM, you draft an early game snowballing comp against TSM, kind of going for more late game strat. This is it. It seems that drafting now is fairly interesting, and it's more about which win condition can win first. So it's like, if you go for a gold funnel, okay, that's late game. But you can counter that by going early game, but if you don't do well in the early game, if you can't close out by a certain time point, gold funnel wins. If you go for, you can go late game for late game, but then it comes down to more mechanic stuff. And I think teams don't want to do that. They want a more assured, okay, we just have to beat, this time limit. And if we can get under the clock with an early game or snowballing comp, we win. Or, okay, we just have to farm and dig deep. Once we scale to a certain point, we will just start winning fights, and then the game will go in the other way pretty assuredly. So it's more of a weird chess game, but I think that this is just a completely different animal of League of Legends than Reaper and the team as a whole are not used to. So Reaper is really struggling and grasping at straws in the draft. The team is really struggling how to play in this new environment, and the game has been changing radically for the past few patches. The Baron meta was a huge swing, and the team failed to adapt to that. Now with this more fluid, versatile sort of, game, the team is again struggling to really find out what to do. So, they're trying different roster configurations, they're trying all these weird different compositions, and nothing is working. So, they're really struggling, and that's making it harder for them to improve because morale just gets lower and lower each time they throw after having a lead. And I think that some of this maybe has to go on Sven and Golden Glue. I hate picking on them because I hate especially Golden Glue because Golden Glue's really been trying. Like, he's improved so much since the last time he was on the LCS stage. In lane, he looks very similar to how Jensen plays, in that he is pretty dominant. He's able to really make sure that the mid laner doesn't get too much of an advantage over them. He's able to play around the jungler and have, his jungler paths, and he's able to support, the team as well. So he does really well in that, but outside of lane, he really struggles to be more impactful in fights and really push leads and stuff that he has, So, just in-game decision stuff past a certain point, he really struggles with still. And that's really hurting the team. Same kind of goes for Svenskeren. Sven's instincts are really great early game. He knows exactly where the jungler is. He knows what to do, which lanes to help out, where to move, and what to do. It's perfect. It is the jungler that Jack and Rebird, I think, saw when they signed Svenskeren. How you see early game and late game Sven are two different people. Early game Sven is the jungler that everyone wants. And something just happens and like his brain just breaks or something, or he just gets too complacent or he gets too scared. But then he backs off on pressure, the team backs off on pressure, and then they lose. So it's they need to do something, and it has to go to drastic measures moving into our preview for not this weekend, but next weekend, since it's Rift Rivals is going to be taking place over the weekend. There's not much to say, I don't think. They play against FlyQuest and CLG. Both are 3-3 and seem to have better team cohesion. C9 does not have that, I don't think. They don't seem to have any clue what to do in the draft and how to play things after 20 minutes or so. I think the best bet you have for winning at all now, just put Sneaky and Blabber in. Take Svenskeren out. He's been, I hate to say it, a liability. Take Golden Glue out, as much as going with these in vogue comps, having the double mage, having the double mid laner, configuration, doing something where Golden Glue is on more supportive, you're going triple support, or something that's trying to give Licorice the ball as Irelia, which was great, though he seemed to not know his limitations still since he is a rookie. So he had a big league, but then just immediately walked it back by making dumb decisions. Licorice clearly isn't ready to be the ball carrier yet, and I think Golden Glue is, maybe not as flexible as we hope. So put Sneaky and Blabber in. Sneaky can be that rock that you need in the bottom lane, and Blabber showing really good promise. I've been really impressed in Academy with his pathing, his team play, his decision making. All have been really great, especially on the gold funnel strat, because I was really concerned watching gold funnel, like, well, Blabber's not really in the jungle. You're forcing Sneaky to kind of play the jungler somewhat. Now you're having to have Blabber split himself from, I have to play my role as this sort of supportive player, and also have to basically be a jungler and tell Sneaky where to go. So I've been really impressed with that. I think give Blabber as much stage time as he needs now, because this is probably going to be the direction that Cloud9 goes in for the future, and it's better to give him as much stage practice now rather than have him try to go fresh in LCS in 2019. Other than that, predictions, it's probably going to be O2. C9 will most likely throw, because their early game has been top 3 worthy, but their mid and late game have been abysmal in terms of decision making. So I think they'll probably throw. Maybe they can go 1-1 if they have, if they maybe put Sneaky back in at the very least. Maybe, Sneaky isn't a guarantee considering Spring Split, but maybe that might be enough. Morale is low. They need to rally around their veteran players and be able to lean on them for support in these trying times. They have the talent and the potential, but they gotta pull it out. They have to do better. So yeah, it's probably gonna be, the season's probably done, as well as I have little expectations for next weekend, but I'm always hoping. And now, before we close out, I want to talk about sort of the future and some of my other thoughts about things that have been going on. Cloud9 is having a crisis in 3 of their 4 pillar games, and that's really worrying, and probably not a coincidence. Decisions made within the past like 4 to 6 months have been, no, yeah, 4 months, because they were doing well in February. So, for the past 4 months or so, decisions have not been going well. And I think it might be because overconfidence, as well as the team, the org, spreading themselves too thin. They're trying to do things for Overwatch League, League of Legends, Counter-Strike. They have to juggle all of these balls, as well as you're signing Clash Royale players for this Clash Royale League in August. You working on a Rainbow Six team, you signed like 9 or 10 Fortnite people in a very short amount of time. It might just be that Jack is spreading himself so thin with having to juggle all these balls that, he's having to really struggle with making decisions, and the decisions have not been hitting. Looking at it more in depth, CSGO needs more stern action and to take issues seriously. They don't have a dedicated fifth for a long time, and that creates an exponential problem with team cohesion, as well as being enticing to other players. I think you have to make a decision on Skadoodle soon. If you let him continue to play, I think it might just drag the team down in terms of, overall results, since he just doesn't seem to have what he used to, old age, old age. You know what I mean, though. Maybe he's just burnt out. Maybe his skill is just naturally falling off. Who knows? Skadoodle needs to be dealt with one way or another. You have to figure out what you're going to do with a fifth. That's just facts. Maybe a new coach would be a good direction. I don't know. I think personally Valens does a fine job. I think he can allow the players to regroup and, pull themselves together if things are going bad. I think he is able to conduct the team well. We won a major with him. I think we can stick around with Valens a little longer. Overwatch, I don't even know. I've been saying complete rebuild at this point, because the team cohesion isn't there. You need players that are able to play consistently at an expected high level, like Prophet does for the most part, without the glaring issues of struggling to play as a unit. You can keep a few people, I think, but I've kind of been saying rebuild, and that's a phrase I'm going to be saying a lot with this, but it kind of needs to happen considering how things have been going. Fresh starts, as alarming as they are, can sometimes really pay off, So, I hate to say it, but, get coaches that can better get, good results out of a team for the Overwatch team, as well as get players that can get those good results. I think the coaches may just not cut it. I don't know. Overwatch is weird right now. As for League of Legends, I think our problems are more clear-cut. And that's Sven and Reaper. Sven is probably not the jungler the team needs at this point, even though his early game is, in my opinion, very good. He has not been able to coordinate the team and conduct the team, which is sort of the job of the jungler, especially after a certain point. He's not been able to conduct the team past 20 minutes consistently. That's a problem. And this is also piggybacking on spring. This isn't just recently. The same problems that we're seeing now have been happening in spring. So Sven, I just don't think it's the jungler that C9 needs. You need to replace him. Either bring Glabber in or import someone else that can actually get the job done. As for Reaper, I think it's sort of somewhat the same scenario. Sadly, Reaper was definitely a coach that I could get behind, because he seemed to really know all of the clever mind games that go on, as well as really understand, meta shifts and how metas really operate. But recently, it seems that he doesn't command the same respect and coaching prowess he once had. He doesn't seem to be able to have the team. He doesn't seem to be able to adapt to big and bizarre changes like we've been seeing recently. And that means, if the coach can't adapt, the team can't adapt. He hasn't seemed to be able to conduct himself in the team well. He hasn't been seeming to be able to really, snap players with big potential into shape and get these results. So you may have to go with another coach, whether that is Rapid Star stepping into a head coaching role. People have been mixed on the signing of Rapid Star, considering his other past results. Whether that's Rapid Star or you bring in a fresher coach, someone who is having better results recently and is seeming, I think, able to do the stuff that Reaper did in previous seasons, I think you're just gonna have to do that. It hurts me to say to get rid of Reaper, but that might be something that we have to seriously consider, considering how things have been going for the year, basically. It's heartbreaking. I really hate to say that Reaper may need replacing, but it's getting to that point where you have to make a choice. I think you can maybe give Reaper one more year at the or one more split at the very least. Give him spring 2019. Give him full reign. Just say like, okay, Sven's the problem. Kick him out. If that's what it takes. And if he can't pull players with obvious big potential to wins through his coaching, I think it's time to let him go. And I think finally, Jack should probably say something. He has been very quiet lately. He has been trying to defend himself in these decisions, and that's fine if he makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Decisions have a certain percentage rate for success. It just happened to be that the decisions that have been made, and I have no idea how much input Jack has. I assume Jack has some input, but at the end of the day, he leaves decisions up to coaches. He leaves decisions up to the team in terms of, okay, do you want to bring an FNS? Valens and the team seems to think he's good. Okay, we'll bring an FNS. Styko is our temporary 5th for ESL. This is off of what the team thinks, In the Overwatch League, the coaches are thinking, how they do rosters and everything. That's their prerogative. Jack doesn't have that much input. Jack is there to manage, not make decisions in more lead teams. Reaper wants to bench the team because they're having motivational issues and results. I thought that was actually fair. And astutely, he's like, okay, we'll try it. Luckily, there's no relegation, so we can maybe afford a bad split. But with how the concerns and the performance has happened, I think Jack needs to make a statement or do an AMA, I think even better. Do an AMA. Address concerns from the fans, address the recent performance, and just lay out just a solid action plan on what's going to happen in the future to right this ship. It's nothing that he owes us. He can stay as silent as he wants. But I think to regain fan support and to also just allow a level of transparency that fans have really been asking for, I think this would really help. So I personally am calling on Jack to address these concerns. He doesn't have to. This isn't me pounding on the table, screaming, why isn't he talking about it? He doesn't have to. That's his prerogative. But personally, I am calling on him, so maybe we'll see something. But I think that is going to do it for us finally today. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I apologize if it's just me and it's been kind of rambly, but I did want to make a episode, this week, even though not a lot of people were available. But thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at C9Bodied. Let us know what you think on Twitter, and thank you, and see you next time.